What happens if the Chamber of Commerce says poverty is unaffordable? What we're going to do in this panel is zero in and have a conversation about why some businesses are determined to do something about those who are struggling to make ends meet. Some, no doubt, are engaged because it's the right thing to do and it's important to share our prosperity. Increasingly, business leaders are zeroing in on this issue because they're wondering how to sustain our prosperity. They're recognizing that if we do continue to have persistent childhood poverty, we will be spending too much of our precious dollars taking care of that problem and, importantly, losing out on the productivity of those children as adults in our workforce. And that is something that we cannot cope with. Indeed, if we are to maintain our economic engine, if we are indeed to be globally competitive, it is important from a business perspective that we invest and address the issues attendant to persistent childhood poverty. Joining me today to share their perspectives and experience as business leaders or organizations working with businesses, I'm very lucky to have Nicole Ravenell, who is President and CEO of the Southern Institute on Children and Families. And as well, joining her is Ann Doss, who is co-chair of the Southern Business Leadership Council, and as well, Executive Vice President of Wachovia. This is not Wachovia Foundation, this is at Wachovia, right? And then also on my left is Daniel Dodd. Daniel is the Executive Director of Savannah Step Up program, which is an initiative to reduce poverty in Savannah. It's called the Poverty Reduction Initiative, I believe. And Daniel isn't housed in the mayor's office, nor is he housed in the Office of Economic Development. Daniel is housed right there in the Chamber of Commerce. So we're going to explore what each of these organizations and individuals are doing. I'm going to interview everybody, and we're going to give the audience as well a chance to do some Q&A. Questions that are small, questions that are large, and yes, David, questions that are middle-sized also get to be asked. So we don't want to leave out those middle questions, right? Those centrist questions. Whatever, we can get all of them in. Nicole, you know, you've got the Southern Institute for Children and Families over here. That's what you head up. Then you've got the Southern Business Leadership Council. How do they go together? Why do they go together?
The Southern Business Leadership Council was created by the Southern Institute in 2002 with the focus of bringing business leaders together from across the South to develop public and private strategies to address the issues that are faced by lower income children and families. And we developed this group to be representative of business leaders who are have a significant portion of lower wage workers and or have been investing previously in their communities to help improve opportunities. As you stated there, it's co-chaired by Ann Doss, who is the Executive Vice President for Wachovia, and also by the Honorable Richard W. Riley, who's a former U.S. Secretary of Education.
Excellent. Well, you know, you just mentioned Ann Doss and as co-chair, and from my take, having just met Ann this morning at breakfast, I have to say you've got plenty of wattage if only you had Ann. So, you know, what I though noticed is you have a longer list of members on this council, which include other folks in banking. You have some industry leaders. You have the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has a representative on this Southern Business Leadership Council. You also have some local chambers of commerce. You've got Coca-Cola. What did you do to rope these people in? I mean, really? Was it Southern cooking? What was it?
No, we actually had this little Spitfire called Sarah Shuptrine.
There you go. Yep.
But what we heard from businesses is that they knew about the problems. They know about the problems. They live with them daily. And what they wanted to do is really be a part of an initiative that was going to create solutions. And not just create those solutions and tell them what to do, but they wanted to be a part of the creation of those solutions to help their communities. We believe on the Southern Business Leadership Council that if we have stable employment in our communities, that the community benefits, the businesses benefit, and families, most of all, can benefit as well.
Speaking of solutions and employment stability, you're about to release a employment stability action plan. and the plan embraces some research that you've undertaken. How did you decide, of all things, to zero in on this question of employment stability? What is it about employment stability that you figure is important both to business leaders and to poverty?
Well, what we've seen over the last few years with the welfare reform, people must go to work. And what's the number one growing types of jobs, particularly across the South, are those that are considered lower wage. And we define that as somewhere around lower than 200% of the federal poverty level, which is about $35,000 for a family of three. These jobs exist. If we want those families to be stable in those jobs, to be able to access those jobs, they're going to need support and services, not just from the public sector, but from their employers as well. And so what we found in our research that we performed with employers is that they feel like their employees deal with transportation, childcare, all of the usual suspects that many of us have talked about from the social services side about what some of the challenges are that these individuals face. What we've done then is taken that information and asked as well, well, what have you done to help your low-wage workers address these issues? And so the action plan not only includes recommendations for the government, for employers, and public and private partnerships, but it also includes suggested promising practices that businesses can adopt and apply in their own situation. One example is a business developed transportation vouchers and transportation assistance to help their lower wage workers get to their location that was actually just outside of the city limits. And they knew that those families with those individuals would be facing transportation barriers, so they stepped in and collaborated with the local transportation authority and some others to raise funds to help those access appropriate transportation.
Could you give us more of a sneak preview? You just gave us one little tease on a transportation initiative as an illustration of practice, business practice. Can you give us maybe one, maybe two more illustrations of practices that you're going to highlight, and then feed us some policy?
Okay. What I've done is provided the audience as well with a couple of examples, one of which is in the packets that have been provided on the tables there. One example is actually that came from Wachovia, related to their health coverage program. And Anna talked a little bit more about that, but that's highlighted in our packet. I also provided an example from Costco, which is a well-known organization, business organization, very similar to a Walmart type of organization, business. And what they've done to make sure that their employees can have access to health care coverage. And then a third example that I've provided is related to child care. Bank of America, which is who's also a member of our Southern Business Leadership Council, offers subsidies to their employees to help defray the cost of child care for those children up through the age of 13. The types of things that we've included in terms of recommendation areas are 8 key points. It's health care coverage and health care, child care, transportation, basic education and life skills, professional development, dependent adult care, employer-sponsored benefits, and public-sponsored benefits. And some of the recommendations that the SBLC are proposing are things such as encouraging employers to offer paid sick, vacation time, paid maternity and paternity leave being offered to these workers to make sure that they don't continue to deal with issues of absenteeism, tardiness, and turnover in this lower wage workforce.